Hello, my dear co-conspirators in the realms of mental health. I hope you're enjoying Mental Marky. Look, I literally don't know when he's going to pop up, what he's going to say. Just sometimes it happens and I'm not even aware it's happening. It's a little bit like a Jekyll and Hyde thing for me. I'm only putting this on so I can check that I don't look like shit. And therein lies a problem. Body dysmorphia. Anyway, I just thought it might be good because obviously I've done quite a few mental health catch-ups this year and I haven't done one for a while, and I thought it would be good to catch up because things have slightly changed for me in the meds department, and it's just nice to have this forum, isn't it? Just to have a bit of a chit-chat. And also, more pressingly, I think the reason I think now is probably quite a good time to have a bit of a natter is with this coronavirus thing, you know, I'm loath to say it's only going to get worse because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, if reports are to be believed in China and South Korea, with draconian measures we can get a handle on this. I think the concern in the Western, more developed world, or you know, well, places like Europe, Britain, America, I think the worry is that if we don't adopt those draconian rules, what could happen? So anyway, in that time, it's a time I think, and I'm feeling it when I'm out on the street, when I'm in the shops, when I'm talking to people on the phone, I'm just feeling a sense of paranoia, vulnerability, and just a shrill sense of anxiety. And it's curious watching this because on the one hand, you'd think that if one suffers, if you suffer like I do, and I know a lot of you guys do, with issues around anxiety, you would have thought that something like this crisis that's developing, this health crisis, would only add to that. And in some ways it does. In some ways I get sort of, I don't know if you're getting them, I get sort of waves of almost a justification for all the fears I've felt from the beginning of DOT, since time since time started, since I can remember being like this. You know, that sense that we've often talked about before, where you feel like something's going to broadside you, something's going to sort of come in slightly left field and hijack the organisation of the situation, or the sanity of a situation, or safety of a situation. And one of the things that CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, really leans on successfully is, as I've talked about before, this idea that you interrogate your negative thoughts and you almost put them in a sort of imaginative court of law against your positive thoughts, and you try and work out what's the evidence here to suggest that this negative, compulsive negative thinking, which I've become addicted to, which is what anxiety is about really. It's about fear, it's about control. Anxiety is about fear and it's about control, and it's about an unknowability to things that essentially in all walks of life they have to be unknowable. It's easy for me to say this. When I'm hijacked by it, all these rational explanations fly out the window. But at a time like now, where you can see leaders of countries, you can see scientists and experts not really quite knowing what they can say. I mean, if I hear once again, you know, sing the national anthem is it, or sing Happy Birthday whilst washing your hands, of course that's important to stress and reiterate. But I think the authorities are being a little bit disingenuous in that we're wanting a bit more than that. We want to know how this is spreading, and we want to know what the experts are really saying. Here's my thought. For example, I don't want to go on about coronavirus, but this is an example. When I try and apply CBT, or cognitive behavioural therapy, to it, I try and think, well, there's only a lot of negative information coming out at us at the moment. It's spreading, there are more deaths, the countries in which it's peaked and it's dying away, there are question marks over the authenticity of the statistics that we're getting from there, and also there's a different nature to the slightly more autocratic regimes that are controlling things. But here's the thing, I'd much rather know, for example, and I'm wondering if this is the case, that maybe there's an idea or a scientific reason for allowing the coronavirus to infiltrate the community to a certain extent so that we can build up our own natural antibodies. So i.e., it's that thing of if you completely lock yourself in and become a bit agoraphobic, you become more susceptible to diseases and flus and viruses because you're not being subjected to them. That would make sense. Why don't they just say that? So I'm trying to use CBT. So what I'm trying to say is, on the one hand, all of this crisis makes things like anxiety and I think mental health concerns more acutely difficult. But is anyone else out there feeling this, which is curious? All of the sort of societal anxiety that I'm witnessing or hearing or sensing is on the increase is kind of, if I was up here of anxiety most of the time, I feel like the rest of society is coming up to meet me. So I don't feel like, I mean, okay, and at times I get a bit higher because I'm like, but I feel like I feel like people might be starting to get what it's like to be us, or people who struggle with these things. Anyway, those are my thoughts on anxiety. I think it must be really hard if you're living on your own and you struggle with mental health issues, you struggle with addiction. One of the easiest ways to kind of lose yourself in all of this is to have a drink. And I'd have thought it's very hard if you're on your own to kind of, if you haven't got someone to talk to about it. I think within our families, even between me, Nadia, and the girls, we've all got our own private fears and worries. I suppose we're all wondering what would we do if something happened to the other one, and how would we cater for that and all that kind of stuff. But on a more general note, though, mental health. How are you? How am I? I, through the advice of my doctors, have gradually reduced my... God, I can't even remember the name of the drug, but whatever that last drug was that I was on, Siroxat, was it? I've reduced down from a pill a day to half a pill every other day to no pills at the moment, because I want to, and I need to, and I was discussing this with the doctor, test drive no pills again. And in coming off them, I would say that the anxiety that returns is an absolutely physical, almost, it doesn't relate to thinking, but that thing of waking up every morning and being anxious is there. At the same time, I've been able to do my work more freely. I've been able to write pitches, do the writing that I need to do the financial work that I need to do, kick off a couple of projects, filming projects that we're filming next week. So, focus of thought has been back, impetus has been back, and I think this is the really difficult Rubik's Cube of treating mental health. I did a review of a film recently called Little Joe, and it was about the idea of, if drugs make you feel better and they take the sort of highs and lows off and make you a bit of a sort of mogadon person, is that necessarily a bad thing? No, it's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what's needed, but there comes a point where you struggle, don't you, when you're on any kind of meds, with when am I feeling things as me, and when am I feeling things or not feeling things as something that's being managed by something else. And that was really disorientating me and pulling me down. And I really want to interrogate finding some other kind of help that can work with without sort of knocking the edges off of me. Now, I don't necessarily know if that's possible. Now, interestingly, as I've just mentioned, CBT, I am going to go back to CBT, and I'm going to sort of do what I call a top-up, which is 3 or 4 sessions, just to re-engage with, what I like to do with that is think of a couple of examples where situations or circumstances have kind of overwhelmed me, or I've allowed them to overwhelm me, and what my thought processes or thinking processes have been going into them. How have I sort of, in a sense, sown the seeds of my own destruction? Because I think that happens. I think self-sabotage is a massive part and component of a huge number of mental health conditions, not intentionally and not out of sort of self-serving kind of, you want people to feel sorry for you or anything, but we get hormonal hits out of pinch points or difficult moments, and I think that we kind of have ways of tripping ourselves into doing things that make us feel a certain way because we're used to and kind of like that endorphin hit. Exercise is really helping me. I've got far more back on top of my Jimmy Timpson, which is Joe Wicks for those who don't know. And I'm doing it more religiously, like even when I don't want to do it, I'm doing it, and that's helping a lot because it just takes a lot of that energy out of you. So CBT, that, and I absolutely haven't been attending to any AA meetings. I have a love-hate relationship with AA, but I am gonna go to a couple, and I'm thinking, and I've said this before, but I am thinking of sort of doing a little, I don't know, video diary of sorts before I go in, when I'm in need of a meeting, and after I go in. Obviously not to break the anonymity of anyone, nor to talk about what was necessarily said in there, but to talk about how how those meetings manifest themselves, how they make you feel different. It'd be nice to be able to do it in the street and on the street, before and after. Would that be useful? Might be quite nice. It's a kind of part of the whole process that when I hadn't been to AA, there's a huge mystery and mystique to, oh my God, crossing the threshold. Will there be a huge sign pointing down like the National Lottery going, it's you, and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say I'm at a higher state of general kind of, I feel like I've got the metabolism of a gerbil at the moment, so and I'm kind of happy with that because I'm getting positive byproducts from it creatively and work-wise. However, the downside is I'm waking up in the morning and I have an inexplicable fear and panic racing throughout me as a physical thing that then quite quickly when one wakes up you start to latch with your brain onto that or that or that or that. Is anyone else in that place? Does that resonate for anyone else? But I'd also like to say for anyone who's struggling or feeling the anxiety or the increasing sense of anxiety and worry around this coronavirus thing, one of the greatest strap lines I can think of from AA is you just have to let go and let God. Not literally God, but the idea being you're powerless. You're absolutely powerless. And as soon as you embrace your powerlessness over it, I mean, you're not powerless over washing your hands and you're not powerless over taking responsibility. And I think it's really key that people understand that just because you yourself might not be at risk, we were saying this to the girls, the least sort of endangered part of the demographic is young kids or kids between the ages of 6 and 18, say young adults. But there's a huge burden of responsibility on them not to spread this virus. So, you know, as long as you can be doing all of that, the more overarching national crisis you are literally powerless over. And I think it really helps to stop and just think about those microscopic little details that you can do to sort of look after not just your recovery station, as I call it, because that sounds quite selfish, but say your family's recovery station, or if you're in a flat or if you're on your own, you and your neighbour's recovery station. I think it is a time to, if not reach out physically, because we don't necessarily want to be doing that at the moment, but reaching out verbally and perhaps just checking in on each other, making sure each other's well, and if you see each other in the corridor or on the way out to work, you just say, hi, you know, how's it going? Because I think a sense of camaraderie and a sense of us all in this together is what's required here. So anyway, I don't know if any of that made any sense whatsoever, but I just thought I like our little catch-ups. I like reading your comments afterwards, and I think it's really important that we have these moments. So there you go.